we're starting today with Raw, which this week took place in Cleveland, Ohio, and while fans were able to see many of the top names in WWE, one of Cleveland's favorite sons wasn't among them. Prior to Raw, many expected that Johnny Gargano would be answering Seth Rollins' open challenge in his hometown this week, but not only did that not happen, but Gargano didn't appear at all. It turns out WWE had no reason not to use Gargano, as Sean Ross Sapp reports that he was present at Raw in Cleveland, but just wasn't used. Instead, Gargano watched the show in his hometown from behind the scenes in what must have been a somewhat disappointing evening for the first ever NXT Triple Crown champion. While there are plans in place to reunite DIY, there was no interaction between Gargano and the returning Tommaso Ciampa this week, and fans will just have to keep waiting to see that reunion happen. This week's Raw didn't see Johnny Gargano appear, but it did see Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, and Cody Rhodes standing tall in the main event after a hard-fought victory over the Judgment Day. It turns out that the show didn't stop once the cameras stopped rolling, as after Raw went off the air, Kevin Owens cut a passionate promo in the ring to the fans in Cleveland. Owens explained how he started his wrestling career competing for a promotion in Cleveland and mentioned somebody called Chris who helped him immensely in his career. The undisputed WWE Tag Team Champion added that it was during a time in Cleveland that revived his passion for wrestling when he felt ready to call it quits and thanked the fans for their support. Those in attendance reached out to say that it was a very emotional promo and that some fans were really into everything Owens had to say after Raw went off the air. On Raw, Owens has been dealing with temper issues, something that Sami Zayn wants to help him with, but the prizefighter showed a much different side after this week's Raw in Cleveland. In 2020, Erick Rowan was released by WWE as part of budget cuts, despite the company boasting record profits at the time. Since then, Rowan, going by Eric Redbeard, has made a handful of appearances for AEW, and this week, the former SmackDown Tag Team Champion opened up about being let go. Speaking on the Heated Shenanigans podcast, Rowan spoke about WWE's decision to release him, but held no ill will to the company for letting him go. He explained, "If something doesn't work, I blame myself. I don't blame creative. I do whatever they ask me to the best of my ability. If they say talk, I'll go out there and talk. If they say don't say a word, I'll go out there and don't say a word. I try to do things to make myself interesting with whatever parameters they give you." Rowan has teased returning to WWE one day, but it isn't expected soon, as in a recent interview, he noted that he is planning to take acting more seriously and hopes to land some major roles. Whether Rowan ever competes in a WWE ring again, who's to say, but the fact that he holds no ill will to WWE over what happened is certainly going to help him in the event of a possible return. We've got some unfortunate news to report now, as Tommy Dreamer has been diagnosed with skin cancer. Speaking on his House of Hardcore podcast, Dreamer revealed that this is the third time he'll battle skin cancer, and went on to describe the kind of surgery he'll be undergoing. He said, "I know you're all looking at this and saying, what the hell is so shiny on your head? Are you going to town? Are you having barbed wire matches, being crazy? No, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? That's skin cancer. That's right, being a Guido all these years has caught up to me. This is the second time, no, the third time I've had skin cancer, and of course it's on my head, but I'm not a pretty boy anymore, I'm hardcore. Scary when they tell you you have cancer and it's the best form of cancer, but you have to get it removed for this. They're able to cut it out. It's called Mohs surgery. I've had it before. I've had it here on my chest, I've had it on my head, and now I have a bigger one on my head. What you're looking at is the grossness of 42 stitches. I had 23 outside and 19 inside. You don't feel it when they're cutting you, it's weird. They numb your whole head. The weirdness of it is they have to cauterize your stuff so you can smell your skin burning. The part that I didn't like, you can hear the scalpel cutting open your head, and the worst part is you can hear them when they're putting in the stitches. It's a long task to get that many stitches, but it's in your head. They can numb it, you're not feeling it, but you can hear it. You don't feel it, but you can hear it going into your skin and the tightening of the thread. It's gross." Dreamer doesn't blame the sun, but did blame his lack of sunscreen, his use of tanning beds, and in his own words, having a giant forehead. The ECW legend explained that he's known about the cancer for 2 months, and this was part of his decision to step away from Impact TV, and he didn't want to worry his mother by telling her about the diagnosis before she passed away earlier this year. 2023 has been a difficult year for Tommy Dreamer, who will now have to go through this battle, and we are wishing him all the best in his latest fight with skin cancer. We've got some premium live event news now, as WWE FastLane will be returning to our screens later this year. During the Pat McAfee show, the broadcaster announced FastLane 2023 for October 7th at the Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indianapolis, Indiana, marking WWE's first premium live event in Indianapolis since Clash of Champions 2016. No matches or talent have been announced for FastLane yet, but this information will come in due time, and the fans in the Railroad City can expect an epic show this October. If you know anything about Seth Rollins, you'll know he is a huge wrestling fan and grew up watching the Legends of the Ring. In the past, Rollins has spoken at length about watching the likes of Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart, who made it big in wrestling despite being smaller than the typical main eventers of the time, but a comment by the Hitman continues to haunt Rollins. It was a few years ago that Bret called Rollins unsafe after he was part of multiple matches that resulted in opponents like Sting and Finn Balor getting hurt, and this week, Seth spoke about these comments. In his interview with the Daily Mail, Rollins said he felt bad hearing this comment from Bret, someone who was and still is a hero of his, but said that the Hitman apologized and they have been friends ever since. Rollins added that he appreciates that Bret was calling things as he sees it, though believes that anyone he's shared the ring with would say that Seth is the opposite of an unsafe worker. It's commendable that Bret and Rollins were able to talk about this difference of opinion and come to an understanding, unlike so many examples we've seen in the wrestling world. But do you think Bret was right to call Seth unsafe? Sound off in the comments. In late 2019 and early 2020, Seth Rollins adopted the persona of the Monday Night Messiah and quickly amassed a flock of disciples to follow him on Raw. That group included Rollins, the authors of Pain, Buddy Murphy, and his future nemesis Austin Theory, but despite a strong group of promising names, the group wasn't long for this world. Speaking to the Daily Mail this week, Rollins described his character as a cult leader and spoke about the talent in the group, but said that everything just kept going sideways. Not only did the COVID-19 pandemic disrupt WWE's plans, but a series of injuries also scuppered plans, resulting in WWE having to make alternative ideas for the group. Rollins said that by the time of his feud with Rey Mysterio, which resulted in Rey seemingly losing his eye, the opinion was that everything had been done with the group and the character, and it was time to move on. With Buddy Murphy and AOP no longer with WWE, it'd take a miracle for the Monday Night Messiah to resurrect his faction, but things could have been much different had the real world not gotten in the way. Back to the present, as this week's NXT saw North American champion Wes Lee retain against Tyler Bate, but the match, which included Mustafa Ali as the guest referee, was not without controversy. Early in the match, Ali attempted a fast count which caught Bate off guard, and later performed a slow count on both men, which confused the champ and the challenger. The closing spot of the match saw both men fall from the top rope, and mid-count, Ali encouraged Lee to get back in the match before doing the same with Bate. In the end, Lee hit the Cardiac Kid to get the win and retain his title, but it'll be interesting to know the reason behind Ali's actions during this title match. Now, it's been over a year since fans last saw Randy Orton in the ring, and for a while, it was believed that his in-ring career may unfortunately be over. Thankfully, that is no longer the case, despite doctors having advised Orton to call it quits in the ring, and we now have an update on his return. Zero News reports that Orton has made it clear to WWE that he does not consider himself finished in any way, and his return could be happening far sooner than you'd think. Some in WWE are reportedly pushing for Orton to be a surprise appearance at Money in the Bank, presumably as part of the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. Orton knows all about the match, having won the briefcase in 2013, but Zero News adds that WWE may hold off on Orton's return until SummerSlam. Whatever the case may be, it appears Orton's return will be happening in the near future, and we can only hope that a back injury like what Orton's been dealing with never happens again for the Viper. When Roman Reigns defeated Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania 39, fans were shocked, as the showcase of the Immortals seemed like the perfect time for Rhodes to finally have his moment. Instead, it was the outside interference of Solo Sikoa that cost Rhodes the match and the undisputed WWE Universal title, but a rematch is in the works. Zero News reports that Cody vs. Roman 2 is being planned for WrestleMania 40, but the match won't be easy for Cody to get there. It's added that Rhodes will have to work for it on screen, and also suggested that all this effort may be in vain, stating that there is nothing to say he finishes the story. While fans have been expecting Rhodes to get another shot at the gold, the idea that Reigns could retain at WrestleMania 40 will fill some with dread, as it seems unfathomable to think of who could dethrone the Tribal Chief at that point. Rhodes' return to WWE has been an epic story so far, but one that is yet to have a happy ending, and while he'll get another shot at the undisputed WWE Universal title, whether Rhodes ever wins the gold is another matter entirely. And we're ending with tonight's Dynamite, as the go-home Dynamite ahead of Forbidden Door will be a huge affair. On Twitter, Tony Khan confirmed that Bryan Danielson will be on tonight's show, and he will be calling out Kazuchika Okada ahead of their match this Sunday. After missing out on a match with Bryan Danielson last year at Forbidden Door, fans are excited to see the American Dragon in action this year, and if we know Danielson, expect fists as well as words to fly on tonight's Dynamite.